Hello and welcome to On the Frontline. I am Thomas Nadi Betilma. Today we're reaching you from one of the biggest e-waste dam sites in West Africa. Studies have already documented the negative effects of the crude method used to extract precious metals from electronic waste. This practice greatly affects the health of those who engage in it and the environment. Recent studies also suggest that children and babies in particular are at risk from the toxic fumes. I am out on the front line investigating this toxic trade and how technology can be used to solve this growing problem. Ghana has been undergoing rapid technological transformation in recent years. Access to information communication technology has been identified as an indicator of Ghana's economic and social development. Bridging the digital divide has resulted in the importation of used computers, mobile phones and TV sets from developed countries. Although majority of these imported equipment can be reused after testing and repair, there are significant volumes that are not suitable for reuse. As a result, the country now faces a rising tide of discarded electronic gadgets, also known as e-waste. The major environmental and health impacts from recycling practices in Ghana results from the processes of dismantling, material recovery, and final disposal. According to the United Nations Environment Programme, 50 million tons of e-waste are produced each year in the world. Some of them end up at informal recycling centers. This is Agbogbloshie, in the heart of Accra. It is one of the biggest e-waste dam sites in West Africa. Most of the workers here are economic migrants from the poorest parts of the country. They live in the nearby Shanty community, popularly called Sodom and Gomorrah. Patrick Atta is a 13-year-old scrap dealer. He engages in one of the most dangerous aspects of the dismantling process nearly every single day.
It's all fun out paya. It's me bow, no one is car, no it's Marco Fiente. We're saying a flew. And a boy.
The recycling of television monitors is not only a major problem here, but also an emerging global problem. These monitors contain heavy amount of lead that can be harmful to human health. By 2015, Ghana is expected to migrate from analog to digital television transmission to conform to international standards. This means that most television monitors that cannot support this system will add up to the pile of electronic waste in the country and end up in the hands of children like Patrick. John Poirman of the Environmental Protection Agency has expressed concern about the amount of electronic waste that will be generated from the digital migration.
A number of television sets will become obsolete because they might not be able to operate under the digital. Some of them might be able to be improved upon by adding some gadgets, but others will just become waste. And so one of the comments I made in the report is that they should give they should give thought to how they are going to organize that collection, and then how they are going to support the recycling of these television sets. Many of them will be these televisions which are operating on the cathode ray tube, and those are the ones which contain the lead, very dangerous. So we are expecting them from the EIA that they did to come up with a strategy. They might not be the company who will do it themselves because they are only coming to install the infrastructure for the digital TV. But they need to put in place the structures, the strategies to encourage private companies, to get into this the business of collecting these television sets which will not be operable, so that they can set up a good system of recycling them.
The burning of cables and other e-waste components to retrieve precious metal has severe impact on human health and the environment. It is a major source of dioxin emissions. Large amounts of e-waste are finding its way into developing countries, and the final destination is dump sites like this, where children burn them to extract precious copper without regard for their health or the environment. Health officials say the workers here are exposing themselves to large amounts of chemical dangers from e-waste.
Kana tia tala doktor kale ba so de bas na kana meto we chere lengo ba kan wat katpele na tria
so bukato yala
bile ka ti yara mi bi ente ba ho shela karable nyo no ba kan di we pam ha bro ka titi en musuti nya fawdo se mbota wan mo sa timi ne to to be den to tana ta kana o se pa shi ka to konyo la do di para nyo la to ko ko he se nyo ma ka konyo.
Greenpeace Research Laboratories conducted studies here. They found heavy metal concentrations in soil and ash samples over 100 times above normal levels.
Heavy metals present in some devices, such as lead, cadmium, mercury, are highly toxic, even at low doses. They can have effects on the nervous system, on the kidneys and other organs. Of particular concern is the effects of lead and mercury on the developing nervous system in children. Other chemicals, including some brominated flame retardants, can build up in our bodies through repeat exposures. And for some, there's evidence of long-term effects, including on brain development, the hormone and immune systems. Many of the chemicals present in electronic devices are environmentally persistent. That is, once released, they will remain in the environment for long periods of time.
Vegetables cultivated along the heavily polluted Korle Lagoon are also likely to be contaminated. John Atiamu of the Environment Division of the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission has been monitoring the pollution levels here for some time.
In our previous study, we noticed that the soil here is severely contaminated, but we need to continuously monitor the activities to find out whether truly the contamination is coming from the scrap activities. And that is why we are continuously collecting the samples to do the analysis, and then we can comprehensively conclude that the contamination we are seeing in this area is as a result of the scrap activities. Once the soil is contaminated, the soil and the vegetables pick them up. there is possibility that the contaminants can be transferred to the vegetables and subsequently transferred to anybody who eats or is exposed to these vegetables. Our women and children who are going to prepare the vegetables for our table may be more exposed than we, the men.
In the midst of the toxic fumes, an animal is being prepared for human consumption. The Agbogbloshie market is sited close to the scrapyard. It is one of the busiest markets in Accra. Traders here are worried about the effects of the toxic emissions on them.
Now anyway then na edim futuro no fra emframa ne ba ekoya widie ni ma emaye yare ana afi so esa maye kata ye bowa.
The Water Research Institute of the Center for Scientific and Industrial Research recently made shocking findings on the dangers the toxic emissions pose to breastfeeding mothers and their babies. The research reveals that most breastfeeding mothers in Ghana have their breast milk contaminated.
The findings have been summarized here.
Lead research scientist Dr. Kojo Anson explains.
Contaminants in the breast milk samples I took from urban and rural areas. That's the red sample for the urban and the green for the rural. I took from Accra, Kumasi and Tamale. It was a general population, not even from the e-waste side per se. Okay. And I found the contaminants in them. So I didn't find any significant difference between the urban and the rural, which means mothers are uniformly exposed regardless of location.
This comes at a time the World Health Organization has expressed worry about the rising levels of air pollution increasing the risk of cancer.
The lipophilic contaminants, more or less, they are carcinogenic, in that they have the potential to cause cancer in humans and even animals. So this is one of the effects. And the other effects are, it could also lead to low IQ in babies, children. That's a low intelligent quotient. We also have what we call endocrine disrupting chemicals. As I said, dioxin is a typical example. And these EDCs, that's endocrine disrupting chemicals, what they do is they interfere with our hormones. They sort of mimic our hormones, and that could lead to cancerous tumors, as well as other developmental defects in babies. We could also have respiratory problems. For instance, in China, which is the most studied e-waste country in the world, it has been shown that in Giu, particularly, about 80% of the children have respiratory diseases. So currently in China, they have discouraged the primitive burning of e-waste. They have introduced what we call a wire stripping. So you strip the wire to remove the copper.
Mobile phones and its accessories are gradually becoming one of the fastest growing electronic waste streams.
There are latest phones like Galaxy, and I'm here to check to see if I can also get another one to add to my Android so that I can upgrade myself, But as I'm growing, things have to change, so the old one has to be somewhere.
But discarded mobile phones are not processed at the Agbogbloshie scrapyard. They are sent to specialized phone repairs and refurbishment shops. Current recycling practices at Agbogbloshie are based on recovery of steel, aluminium and copper, neglecting printed wiring boards. But the wiring boards contain precious metals such as gold, copper and silver, which can be recovered and recycled to serve as valuable source of secondary raw materials, reducing pressure on scarce natural resources. According to the Basel Convention, there is an opportunity for West African countries to gather large volumes of printed wiring boards in order to be able to participate in a fair international commodity trade.
I remember when we did the socio-economic survey, we actually came up with a figure of over $200 million. You know, it's coming from the operations of these informal operators, you know, into the economy of Ghana by way of the metals that they are recovering, the copper, you know, the lead, and all the other useful products that they are recovering from the e-waste. And that is, you know, by our own estimates in Ghana, is quite a significant amount of money that is coming into the economy from the operations of, you know, informal e-waste operators.
The European Union law prohibits the export of e-waste to developing countries like Ghana. The new directive also obliges exporters to test whether equipment functions or not. The Basel Convention also outlaws the dumping of electronic waste in developing countries. Though Ghana has ratified the convention in 2005, not much has been done to implement the regulation. There is no law regulating the importation of e-waste in Ghana.
The legislation is quite far. We think we have the final draft by our own, you know, work, but we know that there is still some more work to be done when it gets to the Parliament. So at the point where we are, we now expect that the draft bill will be forwarded to our ministry, you know, the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, and then they will then do the further work. You know, they need to, you know, submit it to Cabinet and then further on maybe to Parliament. We're hoping that this can be done as quickly as possible because Parliament itself is aware of this problem and we believe that they will give it the necessary priority that it deserves.
A solution to the e-waste problem will help mitigate climate change impacts as the toxic emissions have high global warming potential. Each day, more and more containers filled with used electric and electronic equipment continue to arrive at the thermal port. Majority of the equipment cannot power on. The challenge has been how to prevent the import of e-waste and near end-of-life equipment without hampering the valuable trade of used electric and electronic equipment of good quality.
In solving the problem, I believe these people do certain work and they are transported to downstream buyers, people who want to buy this and then also reuse it or develop something else out of it. This downstream market also buy the waste that are produced from here for their purpose. Our iron rods that we produce, the steels that we produce are also all coming from, some of them are also coming from this place. And there is a need for these companies or these downstream also people to join forces with government, with environmental managers, with research and find ways of maybe solving the whole e-waste problem. One thing that I believe the downstream markets people can also help us do is develop standards for the people at Agbogbloshie. Standards such as
If you burn, you will not buy. If they are providing this standard, it means that this environmental impact, as we have seen before, can also be reduced.
The Basel Convention believes domestically generated e-waste require well-functioning local take-back and recycling systems. But the difficulty has been how to establish appropriate collection strategies, ensuring that large quantities of valuable and non-valuable waste fractions are collected to appropriate treatment and disposal facilities. Capacity building and training of informal e-waste collectors can also help solve the problem.
We are here. If anybody is prepared to help us concerned about the burning or this thing, we will support the person. But we also, it's a force to us for the burning. We don't like the burning. It's a sickness. It affects plenty people at the areas. But we ourselves, we don't see the smoke here. But people complain that the smoke is coming outside. But we those are here and we don't see the smoke.
As many drastic measures as we could, we need to, be up and doing. I think law enforcement, we need to collaborate with all the enforcement agencies, the city authorities, so that we get this matter, under control. We need to organize these people at Ogbogloshi. Where they are currently, I understand, the land belongs to government, one of the government agencies, I think National Youth Authority. And so we could work with the National Youth Authority so that we can at least get a small structure there that we could install, some of the mechanical, shredders for them to use to shred their, cables. And we already have some support in principle from the Blacksmiths Institute of the USA. They are ready to support us in this, in this venture.
E-waste continues to be a big problem in this country. A lot has been done, but a lot more needs to be done to solve the menace. Join me same time next week as I go out on the front line. Thanks for watching.